Relationships. How are your relationships? If you've inherited Catholic guilt, your relationships may not be working. Or maybe they're just not as good as they could be, if you have them at all. This is the second week's podcast on the Kindle launch of my book, Daddy's Girls Guilty as Hell, by Susan Ni Rahilly. And the subtitle to the book is The Lonely Legacy of Catholic Guilt. Please be aware that the major legacy of Catholic guilt is an awful, aching loneliness. The main issues I deal with in the book are relationships, sex and sexuality, and intuition. So this week, I'll read you an excerpt from the chapter in my book on relationships. Being guilt. Being guilt will stop you accepting your ability to be happy. Guilt gets in the way. For a 6-month period, say between the March and the September of one of the years I was writing this book, because it took 4 years, a noticeable amount of relationships broke up around, in my circle. And at one stage it seemed that almost everyone I knew or was meeting for the first time was struggling to get back to emotional health in relationships. I was aware that the guilt about relationship breakups wasn't just religious, it was emotional and social too, especially for the women who'd done the walking. But you know what? Guilt is simply part of the grief process. And unfortunately, if we don't get through this part of grieving, doing all the I shouldn't have done this, or if I'd only done that, maybe I could have done whatever. If we don't get through this part of the grieving and we get stuck because of guilt, we get stuck in our grief and we can't move on. We get weighed down, which is what guilt does to us, and the result is emotional baggage. We may get stuck socially. It can feel lonely when people can't accept our new status. We may get stuck in pain and unable to heal, remaining very lonely for the rest of our lives. We may also get stuck with our identity, wondering who we are now that we don't have an important relationship. I'm Susan Ni Rahilly. I'm a meditation and hatha yoga teacher, as well as being a published author. My book is Daddy's Girls Guilty as Hell, The Lonely Legacy of Catholic Guilt, A Woman's Soul Imprisoned. It's on Amazon Kindle right now. The AISN number is B, that's B for Bertie, 0062 F for Freddie, 654 M for Mother. And by the way, this week there's a 5-star review on the book by Dr. Susan Corso on Amazon, and I think I've put that on my author's page. There's a link from my website, www.susanyoga.com. It's on the homepage of the site, it's in the shop, and it's in our cafe books area. And there's also a PDF downloadable printable version available for those of you there who are not Kindle lights, like me, for example. Namaste. Enjoy, if that's the word. Next week's podcast is on sex and sexuality. This is for your healing. Susan.